Welcome to Chukchansi language class number 6. Today we're going to be going over more consonants and finishing up our creation story. And a huge shout out to our Fresno State linguistics team for helping us put on our language conference this last week, along with the department, the PRCI language department, which is Ted, Shauna, Michaela, and Dustin. So also contributing to a ton of the things that we have in this lesson. Hopefully one day soon we'll have an in-person class, but until then, even if you're just live or online together or at home with family, just remember to be encouraging. Not everyone is going to get it right, and some people just have a great aptitude for learning language, and others have to put a ton of work into it. So make sure they're always encouraging and positive towards speakers. Know that mistakes are okay, just like when you're learning a language when you're young. You're not going to get all the words right. There's tons of mispronunciation. But as you continue to speak, it'll work itself out. You'll get better and better over time. Also, pausing the video, practicing echoing words is always good. When we're writing things down, remember that you can write down what makes sense to you and what you'll remember. You don't have to write it the same way that we do in the videos. So if maybe you pronounce it a little different at home and in your family, and that's totally fine. However you want to write it down so that you can remember how to say it, that's what works. Also, use language as often as possible in a day-to-day situation. So even if you label things around the house or just replay part of this video throughout the week, just helps to cement things in your brain. So for consonants number 2, it's all the dental sounds, so we'll review those. We're going to have our target words again for this week, which is actually all of the words from the creation story all together. So we're picking them all up and putting them in one big chunk so that we can review those ones that we've learned and finish out creation story. We're going to learn sounds, also review the basic vowels and like our overall alphabet. We'll get in depth on those dental sounds and practice listening and sorting similar sounds for T and then the glottalized or ejective T. We'll have a mini spelling test, and then I'm going to follow up with a video separate on the alveopalatal sounds. So that'll be a separate video, just so that this one doesn't become so long. So let's go over all of the keywords that we've had in creation story. The first one is water, ilik and ilka. We have coyote, katyu and katyuan. Cover is somto and somit. A duck is wetwet and wetweti. The world or the ground or the land is called holgi or holkian. Strong is jawan or jawani. Next is just the word mi'in. The word for under is adlin. To tell someone about something is doshit or doshto. And then sand is shukshui or shukshuya. So these are sets 3 and 4 from the vocab, from the story. We had to dive, belet, and belta. We had to grab, gabot, and gabota. Hand is bonosh and bonosha. Drip is choychoyet and choychoyta. Foot is darach and dadachi. Seed is samia and samiyaan. A ball is apom and apoma. Eat is khatit and khata. And then to put something down is khayat and khayata. So this is our final set of vocab that we had for the story. Cloth is banyu, and then banyuun. Very is Mitch. Swell is shonit and showinta. Dry is kamna and kamnaan. For Quizlet, and you can access it on your computer, so Quizlet L-E-T. I put in all 19 vocab words from Creation Story. So you could, if you were just doing the 5 or 6 at a time, it's good to have them all so you can see if you could remember them from the beginning set. And these are really great. Hopefully you've like done enough that you don't need to necessarily go back and learn them all. But if you haven't done, if you're just catching on to this story and this is your first lesson, definitely go to the Learn section, and it just gives you a chance to like just work on that one word. So this is water. So what is the Chukchansi word to match that? Ilka, or it'll do coyote, so you can match it. So it's kind of nice. It doesn't have a ton of audio with it, so that's the hard part, that hopefully you could just watch the video and get down the audio part, but it does give you a lot of familiarity with the written form of the word. The other cool thing my students really love is the match part. So you can try to match up the words for the image and the English word. So you just click on them both and it matches them. So if I wanted to do Chukchui and Chukchuya for sand, I would just click them both. Or like coyote and Katyu. So it's kind of fun to match them and see how fast your time can be. And up at the top it tells you what your time is. So it's kind of fun because you could compete against other people and see if you can get the fastest time. So moving on to Creation Story Part 6, it's really a review of the whole story all together, and that's with all the little vocab pieces that you guys have learned each week. So we're going to put it all together, and I'm going to kind of put it together in a different way than we have the other weeks. So let's check it out. Since today is the last day that we're going to be reviewing the Creation Story, we're actually going to move on to the continuation of Creation Story, which is Theft of Fire. But I wanted to do something a little different today and kind of put our vocab to good use in the story. So what I did is I broke up each section that we've learned in Creation Story, and I wanted to see if you can put the words back that go in Chukchansi from like a missing set of words. So the highlighted words are the ones that were our target words from vocab. We're going to see if you could find the right forms of words. Now sometimes we learned a word like water, and we learned it in the object and the subject form. So we had ilik and ilka, and then you might have seen it another way in the story. So we're going to go through and see if you could match up the words to the vocab. So match up the whatever's missing in Chukchansi, which word went there. So our word for water is the first word. Now you have a couple options here, but hopefully you've heard the story enough that you can remember what was the word for water. So we need water covered all the world. So what was that first word? Ilik. Then we needed a word for covered. Covered. So you're looking down in this box and you could pick which word came next. Somto was the word that matched covered. Then all of something. We learned hitya and hityaan. So hityaan. And then the word for the world in object form. Holkian. Now we're still missing the word for coyote. Hopefully you could find it down here. Katyu. Ama yo is for and. Koliswa is little. Now we need a duck. Which word was duck? What? Then we're sitting matches holshachon. Holshachon. And then sippin is for on top. We don't need of and the, but we do need water again. So you have two choices here, ilka or ilkao. So hopefully you got this one right. We add that W when it's a location. So ilkao is that one that was missing there. Mian, then. Amak, the two of them. Hun to hun is to wonder. Chawitmi is how. Amak again is they both. the two of them. Could is na'ash. Kolestal is shrink. We're missing the water again. So that leaves ilka. Ilka. Now will it let us click it? Oh, it's stuck. Okay, we'll fix that one. So ilka goes here in this box. Mian is so. And then dulul is the hills. Now here the word order can be different in Chukchansi. So I actually matched it up by color so you could see which one it goes to. So na'ash is like could or would or should, and it actually connects to tishal. Usually those ones go together, like could or should. So tishal is to come out. Khatit is to eat. Khatit. So if we say khatal, they could eat. And then amak, remember that's like they both or the two of them. And then na'ash. So it gets a little tricky at the end there with the word order.
Holkein the Ishantau or Shantau Oshto Ta Wintau Chaitash. Creation of Land, Theft of Fire, Morning Star. Translated by Honored Elder Dr. Holly Wyatt. Read by Language Apprentices Shauna Alexander and Dustin Calhoun Johnson.
Ilik somto hidyaan holgiin. Water covered all the world. Kahu ama yo koliswa what halshachon sippin ilkau. Coyote and Little Duck were sitting above the water. Mia namak honhontachon hawit mia mak nash kolesta ilka. They wondered how they could reduce the water. Mia naash dulu tishal, so the hills would show. Chatal lamak naash, so they could eat.
If we go to the second set of vocab and just fill in the vocab for those words, here's the words at the bottom that we could choose from and move them to. So you're just going to fill in the empty spots again. So the water was deep. So ilik, Mitch goes to very deep actually. The water was deep. Chuyu that holgi, so the land was, and then you need a word for underneath or like below. So which one of these words was for below? Should be odlin or under. Coyote, which is a word that you've had from the last session, right? From the last set of words. But we're just focusing on the words that we're missing from this section. So coyote, Katyu, was a strong spirit. So chipne goes to spirit. We're missing the word strong. So which one of these words on the bottom means strong? Hopefully you can remember Jawan is for strong. We can fill in for then that coyote was thinking. So something ama katyu chedmachon. Chedmachon. So it should be mi'in right there. If you're going to have then again, be mi'in again. Then I, so not, will tell. So that's another word that should be from in here. Doshe. Something you'll do in the future. Doshe wati, makrat, and then you're missing a word. So tell duck get sand. So the word we're missing is the word for sand. So which one of these words left fits for sand? Shukshuya is that word for sand. Shukshuya. And then from the water. Get sand from the water. So from under. So Odlin is going to match to under. And we still have ilkau. We have another then. This is a one in the middle of the sentence. So no, we know that it has a lowercase m. Mian ama. Then you're missing a word. Wati. Then he told is missing. Duck. So with doshet being, or doshet or doshto being your word of the week for this week, this set, it would have been doshto. belka matched dive. Then duck dived under the water. So which word is the word for then? Mian, what, belta. Then we're missing the word for under again. That was adlin. Cow. So that was the second set of words.
Mitch ilik wa a chuyuta holgi adlin. The water was deep. There was land beneath it. Kahu Jawan Chipne. Coyote had supernatural power. Mian nama kayu chedmachon doshe na mian what e machka shukshuya adlin ilka. Coyote was thinking, I will tell duck, get sand from under the water. Mian nama dosto what e belga mian what.
Here's our third set of vocab and our sentences from it. So we have the words down here that we could choose from. We're going to fill in the missing words. So let's see if we can match them all up. So we have then, mian, the word for duck, what, and then we're missing the word for dove, like to dive. So out of these words down here, hopefully you recognize that study word you had, belta. Then adlin for under, and ilkau for water, in the water. Then, as always, mian. Duck again, what. And then you're going to choose the word for grabbed. So down here you should recognize the word for grabbed. Gabota. Then we have shukshuya for this earth or the sand in this instant. And then in his, amen. Then the word for claws is really trying to find the word for like feet also, like his claws or his feet. So down here, the word that we could choose is dadachu. Then do, just like, we need a word down here for hands. Ponosh, ne, just like his hands. Then mian, as he came up, tishmasham, then ilkau, out of the water, shukshoy, the sand, and this is one of the coolest words ever, choita, that's the word for dripped, amen, from his, and then when it becomes a location, hands in a location, there we have our last word to choose, ponosha. Mian panata, then he got, sipin, above, ilkau, the water. Goliswa, shukshoy, so a little sand. Khoto, remained. Khoto. So like it stayed is really the word for that too. Then adlin, under, his, and another fun word to say is khe shekau. Khe shekau, for his fingernails.
Mian what gabota shukshuya amin dadachu du ponoshne. Duck grabbed some earth in his claws like hands. Mian tishmasham ilkau shukshui chuita amin ponoshau. But as he came up, the sand fell out of his hands. Mian panata sipin ilkau koliswa shukshui choto adlin cheshachau. When he reached the surface, there was only a little sand left under his fingernails.
The fourth section of words and the story that we had is then Coyote took the sand, mian kayu, taneta shukshuya, mian diishta. Then I'm missing a word right there. So it's then Coyote took the sand, then made, and we need a word for the ball or a ball. So we look down here, we have actually a couple options. Hopefully you recognize from the story which one to use in this case. So it should be a poema. Now this other version is possessive. It has an N on it. So we'll get to that as we keep learning. Let's keep going. So Coyote had some seed. Kayu Ch'anetam. And then it has the word mian, which really means like so in this case, but it doesn't actually say so in English. They used to eat. Aman will, and then we're missing a word right here. So we have these options at the bottom. These were related to your target words for the week, one we had this week. So hopefully you got this one right. Khate is to eat, like it's future version of eat. Used to eat. Will khate, used to eat. Then he had one seed. So mian, ama yetam, ch'anetam. And we're going to keep going with he put. So put something, or to put away or put it up. We get to choose one of these words. So khayata is to put up. So he put that seed in a ball. Khayata ch'anata. And we're missing a word right here. Hopefully you're familiar with it now. Apomen. And then of sand. Shukshuyo.
Mian kahu taneta shukshuyo mian de ishta apoma kayu chaneta mian naman will khate. Coyote took this and made it into a ball. He had some seed they used to eat. Mian nama yetam chanetam khayata chaneta apomin shukshuyo. He had one, but one seed left. He put it in the ball of sand.
Review. We have then that seed could make. So mian for then, ama for that, samia, seed, na'ash is for could, and then we have free word order. So although anything to make something, this is to make, it's actually not going to use that dish it to make because it's causing something to swell up. So we're going to actually have swell as our main word in this one, like a causative version of it. And then because of free word order, anything is down here, hitya'an. So we are missing a form of the word swell right here. And the capitals and lower cases kind of give us it away. But can you pick which word from down here would go there? Shobomal. And often this causative, the AL, goes with could and would and should. So you'll see na'ash and then a verb, and it'll have that AL ending on it. So hitya'an ha'an tao. So over there. It swelled. So again, we have that same root verb. Shonit. Duya'an. Ilka. So water. Ama. Ne. So like. And then we need a word for a cloth. A cloth. So what are these words? We picked banyu. Ama hi. Ho hi. Hi holgi. So this living place, this land, was very. So what are these words? Very, Mitch. And then dry. Kamna. So that's our story. And these will be posted in, if you're in Google Classroom, you want to try these on your own, they're going to be posted for you guys.
Mian nama samia na'ash shawonol hidya'an ha'antau. That seed could make anything swell up. Shonit duya'an ilka ama neye banyu. Then that seed swelled, drawing up the water just like a sponge. Ama hityo ho holki mich amna chuyu da limik ohmen op ohmen toinena op. This place, this country was dry, but it was black, no sun or moon.
I hope everyone really enjoyed the creation story. It's always a good way to get back connected with our old traditional stories. So we'll continue on with that in the next part. It's like it actually reads as a whole story when you hear the whole story from its original text. So we'll move on with Theft of Fire next. So that'll be our next story that we move on to. We're going to switch it up and learn our sounds, and we are on consonants, but it's good to keep reviewing the vowels. So we're going to go over that really quick before we get into like the actual consonants that we're doing for this week. This is just a little write-up that I did, like a poster for the alphabet, and it's just nice to see it all in one place. So the bold word, the word in the dark black, is the letter that we're on. And something that some people don't realize, I have to explain this to kids a lot, is that the glottal stop, the actual, it looks like a big question mark. That's in the second place. So it's between A and B, and it actually is its own letter. So your body, when you're actually making words and you're starting a syllable or a word with a vowel, you're actually going to like have a stop to your breath before you say that. And we'll get used to that as we go along, but glottal stop is a like an actual reaction in your body. So it is a letter. It's just one that doesn't produce a large sound like the others. You're actually like shutting off the the wind basically in your mouth. So that's in the second spot right here. So that's glottal stop. We have glottalized letters, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Then we have ejectives that we mark too. So you get to just take a look at this. Sometimes it looks like it's the same letter twice, like CH and CH, but this is a glottalized. So it has that like apostrophe looking. It's actually glottalized in that form. They have two different sounds, so that's why they're different letters. So we have K and this other K that's a glottalized. We'll talk about those. Same thing for L's. It's a glottalized L, so it actually like stops fast. Let's see, P's are the same way. T's, you might notice that there's two T's, but they're actually two different types of T's. I think that Y's also. And W's. So you can look through this and study this. And then we're going to move on to more specifics. And here's a review of our vowels. We like to practice the sounds before we just jump right in it. So we have ah, eh, o, and oo. I actually did a little video when I taught kindergarten. There was this really cute video that I always used to play of the vowel sounds, and it was frogs. But I decided to kind of do some other Chukchansi animals. So here's a little video of the vowel sounds so you can practice the vowel sounds. Let's work on our Chukchansi vowel sounds. We have short and long vowel sounds. The long vowel sounds are just the short vowel sounds, but held longer. Ah, eh, o, oo. Ah, o, oo. Here's another poster that just goes over some rules that we have in Chukchansi. So just so that you don't get like confused about when do these letters with the apostrophe looking thing show up. So these are the letters that will have like a glottalized sound. So like the stop, it's M, N, W, Y, and L. So these ones are always at the end of a word or a syllable. So if you're ever writing and you're like, oh, I'm going to put this at the beginning of a syllable of a word, you'll know, oh, wait, there's that rule. These only go at the end. So M, N, W, Y, and L. This second poster is consonants that we don't have in Chukchansi. So Z, Q, the letter C by itself, V, F, and R are not letters that we have in Chukchansi. So the Z we just don't use, Q we don't use. C has the same sound as K in the English alphabet. So there's no need to make confusion. We could just have one of them. So we just go with the K. And the only time that we use C is when it's with CH as a digraph, that ch sound. So we kind of use it, but not by itself. V and F
F's we usually change to P's. So when we have like an English word that we adopted and we want to say it in Chukchansi, those old elders, they weren't exposed to that sound, and so they tended to change it to an L. So like an example is the word Fresno. Fresno became the word Plesno in our language. So the F became the P. The R, a lot of times that is an L sound in those old words because, again, it's not a sound that our elders were used to saying, and so they adapted it to what was the closest they could get to. There are a couple words, but they're definitely borrowed words. That's Windara. It's actually 3 words, so I need to fix that. Windara for window, Oro for gold, and Doro for a bowl. So those are borrowed words. Moving on to the sounds that we're targeting this week. These are all going to be consonants that are done as like dental sounds. So kind of made towards the top of your mouth by your teeth. These are all the sounds we're going to work on this week. If you want to stop and pause the video, you can grab a piece of paper and a pencil because we're going to go over some of these words and examples. Before we just hop right into those sounds, I wanted to kind of show the progression of these letters that we're learning. These are all consonants, so not vowel sounds, not the A, E, I, O, or U, so consonant sounds. And last week we went over the labial sounds. So we did B, P, the ejective P, that's like ponosh. Ponosh has a really strong kind of sound to it. We did M, we did a glottalized M, so it ends fast. It's actually a marker. These glottalized consonants, they kind of let us know that it's like the topic of the sentence if it's at the end of the word. So that's why we have those. We have a W and the glottalized W. And today we're going to go through this whole list of dental. So we're going to do D, T, a glottalized T, S, N, a glottalized N, an L, and a glottalized L. And this is the only one that has all of these different types of words that you can, or sounds that you can make. So we fill the whole chart on this one this time. So you can get your own page ready if you want. We're going to have a little definition up at the top, and then some examples of each of these words. We'll at least have 3 examples for each of these words. You can also, if you're in Google Classroom with us, you're following along in that, you could download this worksheet and just fill it in with us as we go. So if you want to pause, you're welcome to do that. So on the top of this worksheet, or maybe on just the top of your paper, if you want to put the definition of the dental sounds require a speaker to produce by making contact with the upper teeth. Dental sounds require a speaker to produce by making contact with the upper teeth. So that's why D and T and S, those are all interacting. They don't necessarily always touch your teeth, but like the S, you get pretty close and have that air go through. So they're all made in that area of your mouth. So these are all the D sounds. So we'll do one at the beginning. So you see D at the beginning of a word, like Dina, Dina, and that's for like wild potatoes. And you can hear that it's a stop sound, like you stop the D sound. D, you have to kind of change how you're using it in your mouth. And it's also plain, so it's not like ejective or anything like that. So Dina. And another example with the D in the middle of the word is laden, laden, and that's like nest. This next word is for a ground squirrel, shidgil, shidgil, and that's again showing it in the middle of the word. It's at the end of the syllable in these ones. It could also be at the end of the word. We just don't have a lot of examples of that, but it could be. This next sound is T, and it's just like the T we have in English. So it's considered a stop, T. So you kind of have to like readjust your mouth to get the next sound. and then it's aspirated. It has that little push of air that you have to have going on to make the sound. So T. So tesich is the word for door. So that shows it at the beginning of the word. Then here's an example of it at the end of the word. What. And what means who in English. So that's kind of confusing because it sounds like what, but it's actually what. But yeah, what means who, like who is that? And then another example of it being at the end is Wyatt. Kind of sounds like Wyatt, but it's Wyatt. And that's to dig. It's the verb to dig. The next letter is a ejective T. So we don't have this in English, so it's going to have to be something you get used to doing. And it could be in the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of a word. And one example of this is the word toyosh for arrow. Toyosh. It's very clicky sounding. And I love that we have this next word. You're thinking like, oh, alligators are not from here. We wouldn't have a word for it. But funny story is that over by Safari World, the reason why it was called Safari World is that it used to have like a little zoo over there. So it's really close to the tribe in Picayune. So we actually got to the point where we have a word for alligator, and it's katyaya. Katyaya. So I think that's really funny. It's kind of fun to say. Katyaya. So it has that clicky T along with a clicky K. So that one's kind of hard, but it's fun. And then an example of T at the end is this word, wa'at. Wa'at. And that means long. It could also mean far or deep. Wa'at. So you can hear it at the end of that word. This is a sound you're familiar with in English, so it's just a regular S sound. It's called a fricative. So like sawmill, sawmill, and that's the word for gopher. And it could be at the beginning of a word or a syllable. It could also be found in the middle of a word. Wosit, wosit, and that's to hit. Wosit. And then our next word is belas, belas, and that's for pear. The next letter is an N, just like you have in English. This is a plain N. It's considered a nasal because if you actually like stop to make the sound, it's kind of like you're making it towards like where your nose is. So the first word that has an N in the beginning is not, not. So this guy is pointing to himself like I, means I. And then an example of an N in the middle is banyu, banyu, and that means towel. And then an example of N at the end of the word is shedin, shedin, and that's wild onion. So this N is a glottalized N, very different from the one that we saw in the last slide because the glottalized N, oftentimes it's a marker. At the end of a word, it lets us know that it is the subject because we have free word order. So lots of times if it ends in this glottalized N, it's letting us know that it's the subject. It's either this or you'll see a glottalized letter, or you could see a vowel with a glottal stop. So that's why it's important. An example is showin, and that's pigeon. Showin. The word for button is wodon, wodon. Or to breathe is honhon, honhon. And this word actually, the word for heart is honhon. So it's only different by having a glottalized N in the first spot or not having it. So they're really close. So how you pronounce it is really important. Our next letter is a plain L. So it's a glide. So you have the word like limerick, limerick. You could hear the L in the beginning. Or like we say hello, hilly, hilly. You could hear that L in the middle. or at the end, like na hill, and that's a while ago. That's the word for a while ago. Our last letter is a glottalized L, so it's either at the end of a syllable or the end of a word. So our example is ma milk. You can hear that fast stop at the end. This is the word for blackberry. Our next one is holgiken, and that's for animals. You could hear it in the middle of the word there. Or pel, and that's for road or trail or path. So that's all our dental sounds. D, T, T, and a S sound, an N, glottalized N, an L, and a glottalized L. So something that is really tricky about these is when they have letters that are very close to the sounds, but maybe they just have a glottalized sound or an ejective sound. It's really sometimes hard to hear it when you're listening, or sometimes it's easy to like generalize things and they all end up being glottalized just because you're used to doing that. So just be careful as you learn to make sure that you're really stopping and thinking about which sound is which, because it can easily turn into bad habits. So just try to really focus on that as we learn these letters or these sounds. Just to practice a little more of what I was just talking about, we're going to sort the difference between a regular plain T and a ejective T. So this is going to be listening and producing sounds that are like the regular plain T sound, like tessich and wat and wyatt, and the difference between the words that have a ejective T, like toyosh or wat. So we're going to practice that a little bit more. So I had some feedback from several of you that are in the regular live class that Easel's been a little difficult to navigate. So I figured I would put it in the lesson and just kind of take my time. So if you want to pause it, you're still going to do the whole activity. It just might need you to pause it every once in a while so that you can try your own answer before you actually hear the answer from me. So on this activity, la niga is to listen. So we're going to listen and try to figure out which sound is the T sound, just the plain T sound, like we have in English, t, like 10, and which sound is the glottalized T sound, like tai, like for the word lake, tai. It has a very clicky sound. So I'm going to play these words and see if you can figure out if it's a glottalized T that would go on the right side over here, or if it's a regular T called a plain T that goes on the left side. So try to figure out which side it belongs on. So you're going to listen for that clicky T or if it's plain. So here's the first word. The word for a basket that cooks acorn is tewish. So I'll give you a second to think about that one. I'll replay it one more time. The word for a basket that cooks acorn is tewish. All right, did you hear a clicky T or a plain T in that? And that was the beginning sound. So hopefully you guys got this one right. It was a clicky T in the beginning. All right, so here's the next word. The word for back is kewit. So you're listening, do you hear that clicky T that would go here, or is it the plain T that goes on the left? I'll play it one more time. The word for back is kewit. And you hear that clicky T right there at the end. Hopefully you got that one right. Our next one. To make something is dishit. So do you hear a clicky T in that one? Let's play that one more time. To make something is dishit. T-shirt.
So that one did not have a clicky T sound. Ended with like a plain T sound. T-shirt. T-shirt. All right, next one. To play this one.
The word for a doctor is dokton. Dokton. The word for a doctor is dokton. Dokton.
So do you hear a clicky T or a plain T in that one? And we'll move on to this next one.
The word for the number 1 is yet. Yet.
So let me play that one again.
The word for the number 1 is yet. Yet.
So was that a clicky K, ejective T, ejective T, or a plain T? Hopefully you guys heard it as the ejective. All right, here's another one.
A pine nut, or a pine nut bead even, is tone. Tone.
So do you hear an ejective T in that? Let's play it one more time.
A pine nut, or a pine nut bead even, is tone. Tone.
So that one, did you hear a clicky T? Hopefully not. That one did not have a clicky T in the beginning. It was plain. Here's another word.
To burn something is tolnut. Tolnut.
So you're listening for ejective T or plain T?
To burn something is tolnut. Tolnut.
Hopefully you heard that ejective T sound in the beginning of that one. And then the other one is a beginning T sound. There's 2 T sounds in this one, but we're just looking at that first sound on this next word.
To make something is to dish it. Dish it.
Oh, that was actually supposed to be tosh it. Tosh it. So do you hear an ejective T in tosh it? Tosh it. So that one is not an ejective T. All right. So that was that activity to figure out if it's an ejective T or not an ejective T. That concludes all of our learning for this session. We're going to continue to have more consonants coming up. So we have a few more sessions on consonants. I'm actually going to add a video that's just that glottal and velar will be the next one that I add. And it's going to be separate from this video because I just didn't want it to be really long where your brain is just worn out. So I'll add that as a separate video. Our next session, though, is Wednesday the 27th at 6:30 if you want to do live with us. And that should be regular live session. Again, with the video after posted to YouTube. These are the other sessions: Wednesday the 11th, pronouns, Wednesday the 15th. Those are going to be noun clans. When we finish the noun clans, though, we'll be able to start making sentences. So that's exciting coming up if you stay with us through the end of our summer and fall session.